Speaking of rebuilding, we all know someone who had to rebuild something very precious to them back in the 70s when someone blew it up, and that was this man. So we're going to dip into that and have a look and... All right. What we've got here is the Adelaide Crows.
Yeah.
Gus. So we did just mention the Crows. Always an interesting side because of the nature of the fish bulb. No, not the fish bulb. The fish bowl of
Tom's had a few frothies tonight.
South Australia.
Yeah.
So look, plenty of interest in the Crows. How do you see them this year?
I think they and Hawthorn are the favourites for the spoon at the moment. They're probably a little bit ahead of Hawthorn in the rebuild just because they've started the process at least of getting in the young talent. Like they've got Thilthorpe in, they've got a couple of young players in the middle in Berry and Schoenberg that they are trying to kind of bring along. But we just went through West Coast team. I mean, it's much worse at Adelaide. Like, at least with West Coast, you can sort of be like, here's the stars, but what's around them? With the Crows, it's more like, here's a dude who's not terrible, and then there's a bunch of other players around him. So, they've got Tom Doty in the back line, who I think could be a star of the competition one day, but isn't yet. I think it's silly to even put him, some people sometimes talk about him in that light, and I don't think that's very reasonable. The midfield, Matt Crouch is coming back off injury. Rory Laird is now injured. Sort of leaves you with Rory Sloane and then, those guys I mentioned before, the kids.
Keysy.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, and Ben Keys, who is a very good player, but, is not, I don't think, moving the needle from... Well, he's not moving the needle really at all. He's just a solid midfielder. And then the forward line... if Ben King hadn't been injured, this might be the weakest forward line in the comp, I think. With no Taylor Walker, they really struggled to kick goals without Tex last year. I can't see that changing, really. I mean, Thilthorpe is only 20. He looks very talented, but again, only 20. And then other than that, really, what do they have? They've got Billy Frampton, who I don't know if he's going to play really, and Jimmy Rowe has the fall of the ball. They're not a strong forward line at all.
I think with the Crows, the best thing you can say about them right now is that the build is being done the correct way, and which I think is two things, and one of them is practical and one of them is more whole club. The whole club one is they fully embraced it and they said, this is what we're doing. We're going to hit the draft. We're going to keep our picks. We're going to play kids when maybe they aren't ready, not to a ridiculous extent, but they're going to get games into them. The second thing is drafting your key position players first and then doing the midfield later, because I'm not sure if you know this, Gus, but big boys take a bit of time quite often. Remember Courtney Johns? We're talking about that kind of level of...
Far out. I'm still waiting. That's taking a bit of time.
They've got Jordan Butts, who looks like he's going to be a solid full-back for a long time down the back end. Fisher Maxey hasn't come on yet, but he's still quite young, and they spent a high draft pick on him as a key defender. They got Thilthorpe in last year. He looks awesome. So that's good. That's all fine. I think they're doing that right. But the problem that I see is they haven't got the midfield addressed at all. Those concerns remain for me, and they had the same concerns last year. They took Josh Rochelle with their first pick. Fine, if he was the best talent on the board, that's awesome. I'm sure he'll be a gun, but he's not. Who other teams down the bottom? Hawthorn have got Josh Ward. Warple's the best and fairest winner already. Collingwood have got Dacos. Gold Coast and North are both littered with young midfield stars or potential stars. So Adelaide are, in my mind, still behind those guys, those teams in the rebuild because of that reason. And then you look at last year; they won 7 games last year. Like that, does that seem like a lot to you? Because
but they won, didn't they? Didn't they win like 3 out of the first 6 because Dex kicked 15 goals or something in those games? And
yeah, exactly.
That's not happening this year.
No, so I think 7 wins is overs last year. So if they win 7 again this year, I think that's a massive win. And I don't think they will be doing it. No, I agree. The one big X factor or the big recruit they got in the off season was Darren Burgess, who is basically like this magic man where he goes around and sprinkles his little magic dust on teams. He's worked extensively in the EPL.
Are you making some kind of aspersion there, Tom?
Oh, no, I wasn't. But if you are, then...
No, just asking the question.
No, there's no suggestion of anything like that. But he has had very experience in world sport, and he got Port Adelaide, to their awesome fitness when they were awesome in 2014 and 15. They did the same thing. He worked at Melbourne, and now he's at Adelaide. So I think that gives a lot of hope to supporters, the fact that he's on board there in Adelaide. And I can see them definitely, maybe that gets them 1 extra win this year and maybe gets them 2 extra next year. It's extremely highly rated, and I think it's a bit of a coup for them.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's also funny that the best recruit was an off-field fitness coach. Like, that's never a great sign. But yeah, anyway. No, I mean, I agree. If they won 7, I'd be shocked if Adelaide won 7 games this year. To be honest, I'd be a bit shocked if they won 5. Like, I think this team and Hawthorn, like you said before, not that many teams are going to win 1 or 2. These are the 2 teams that could put their hands up for, a real disaster season. Just because I think they're pretty bad. So
if that's the case, and I know that this is not going to get out of hand, but they've just extended Matthew Nicks already. If they do have another disaster season, which is very possible, and they finish, say, bottom or second bottom, that will be his 3rd season in the job. And, you could rightly expect them to be a little bit better than that in his 3rd season taking over. So I question why they did that. Like, I understand.
I think it was strange really extending. Yeah. You can just let it. But I don't know. It's always so hard because coaches are always demanding extensions, basically, because they know.
Yeah.
They know they can get fired at any time, pretty much. Yeah. So
they don't have to give it to him, though. Like, they don't.
No, they don't. And I don't think it's not like somebody was banging down the door to get Matthew Nicks across. So yeah. I think it was a strange decision at the time. Yeah, especially when you got somebody. I mean, who says Alistair Clarkson has to go to the Suns? Like, if you're Adelaide, if you've got the money and the will, like, you could try at the very least. But now you've kind of added that complication by having an extended coach that you would have to pay out.
All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. We'll move back into the